Disclaimer. Please do not target, harass, threaten, or bully anyone referenced, mentioned, or shown in this video. This is merely a commentary from the author of this channel and should be taken with reasonable doubt. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Tiju Panda back in action to talk about something else today. By something else, it's going to be about furry drama. So, before we continue, I would just like to say right now is that I know that some of the videos I posted recently haven't exactly been the best. I don't know what it is about face rig processing the video, but I've noticed that either the lip movement would be very sluggish compared to like what I've been saying. The dialogue would be pretty good. The visuals, not so good. And I've tried to experiment to like capture that in real time so that it would be an improvement. I tried broadcasting the footage from here to OBS, and it didn't come out quite as well as I wanted it to. For instance, low resolution, as well as the fact that my movements here, like on OBS, were kind of twitchy as hell, and I did not like that. So for right now, like, if you all are cool with it, I'm going to keep with like face rig, because face rig has just been that long time program that I've always loved using. Worst comes to worst, I could probably pop on VR chat and talk about things like this like I did for some other videos, but I only like to do that with certain topics of interest, you know what I mean? Other than that, you lose a lot of the sense of expression apart from eye movement, and I'd really have to learn how to modify a particular avatar to really fulfill all the functions that I want it to. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's continue, shall we? So, talking about the topic of today, fursuits. You know what fursuits are, right? It's basically what furries like to wear to get closer to their aspired character or fursona, the fursona being their identity in the furry fandom. And, you know, it's either what furries see themselves as if they were to be a walking, talking animal person, or it's sort of like a fantasy fulfillment. It's what they fantasize about being. It's what they wish they could be, you know? And furries flock to, you know, furry conventions all across the United States and the world to be around walking, talking animal people. It is a very important cultural, relevant topic of interest for furries to see, you know, fursuiters at a convention. You know, it's what's become recognizable across the web. Much to the chagrin of people from 4chan and other places at large. I mean, not too many people in the mainstream really like furries because they see us as a bunch of cringeworthy weirdos, but that's okay. A bunch of you all don't like the fact that I'm a furry. I do apologize for that, but I cannot deny that I am a fur fag. Okay, so all that to say is that fursuits are fairly important. And, you know, there's something simultaneously charming and horrifying about seeing fursuits. Like, some fursuits, I've seen some good fursuits that are fairly attractive, and everybody wants to capture a picture of that. They want to admire the person wearing it. Other furries, like other fursuits, look like something that's just been ripped out of, like, Uncanny Valley. And it really depends on who made it, you know? Like, whether it was home built or it was made by an actual studio. That raises a whole bunch of other topics. I can get into a whole topic of discussion about that in another video, but for right now, let's keep it going. So, fursuits are fairly important, alright? They're a fairly important cultural icon for like the furries to rally around, and they want to see more of that, you know? And there's plenty of furries out there that have become famous or popular because they started YouTube channels and started talking in fursuit about various topics of interest, kind of like I do here, but with a certain twist on it. Things that furries really find appealing. You know, usually the sexual appeal and like sort of that whole illusion of being like good moralistic people. Some of them are, but most aren't, like, by and large. They're not necessarily bad people, but they're not quite as moralistic and down-to-earth as you might suspect. But that's a topic of discussion for another time. So, let's move on. So fursuits, fairly important. Everybody likes them, at least furries like them, and, like, people are willing to shelve big bucks to buy them. And when I say buy, I do mean commission, because usually fursuits are made to order. It's not like, you know, sometimes people like to buy pre-made, they sometimes like to buy used fursuits, but usually the most aspired, like wishful, like, you know, acquisition of a fursuit is by contacting a fursuit maker to make you the fursuit. And there are long-standing queues. The demand far exceeds the supply because there's only a few studios out there that can offer a fursuit that people are actually willing to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars to commission. And they are willing to wait like 6 months to a year to get that fursuit, as long as it meets the requirements they specified, like the character design, the look, the appearance, and sometimes it works out great. They get a great fursuit that is comfortable to wear and everybody loves it. Other times they get a horrific monstrosity that looks like it came from Wish.com and everybody's angry. But anyway, There's a particular fursuit maker out there named KaijuCostumes, and if you want to commission Kaiju costumes for anything at this point, well, I hate to inform you, but they are closed indefinitely. Why? Well, let's get into it. I want to share with you a personal story from my years at the university. Anyway, I attended Penn State up in Pennsylvania, and that was years ago. I graduated, got a job, and I've been working ever since. But I'll tell you right now is that after about sophomore year, when I was moving into junior and senior years, that the classmates that I would see day in, day out were usually the same people. You know, it made sense when I picked my major and like other people had picked their majors. We were shuffled into the same programs to attend classes with the same teachers, you know what I mean? And with that all to be said, I got to know some people fairly well. They're pretty cool people all in all. Like, I can't really admonish them too much. Some of them, a lot of them, like, you know, I didn't quite sync up with, but there were plenty that I formed friendships with, and we would talk about stuff. And, you know, it was just like, these are pretty cool people, you know? Going to class, going to parties. Hey, I dig it. But some people that you met along the way weren't exactly normal people. They weren't exactly playing with a full deck, you know? And one such person was Eric. Eric was a shrimpy dude that had piercing blue eyes, but at the same time, he had, like, blonde hair, like, sort of beard-mustache combo. But he was, like, shrimpy. He looked like, you know, Beavis from Beavis and Butthead, but, like, a little bit more nerdier, but with, like, facial hair. Like, a little bit. Maybe I'm being harsh, but maybe my memory's, like, filling in the blanks, but he kind of reminded me of Beavis. And obviously I'm using pseudonyms right now, I'm not using the real names, so. Eric, he always sat next to a girl named Casey, and Casey was one of those preppy type girls that was pretty cool. She was fairly attractive. I mean, she had dark hair, and she looked like she had Italian lineage, but she was a pretty cool person. I mean, like, I always got the feeling that she never really took me, like, completely seriously. She was like that female coworker that wants, like, nothing to do with you as far as dating, but she's willing to talk to you and, like, have a good time and, you know, friend zone you. So, Eric, for some reason, and her, like, sat next to each other for a long damn time, and I was under the impression they were friends. Even though, like, my perception of the whole situation was that Eric was kind of the beta male orbiter that basically did things for Casey because he was hoping that it would get him closer to her. Maybe it did. I don't know. But I don't think there was anything going on. Because, like, Eric was kind of a weird dude. Eric was the type of guy who'd always just kind of, like, stare at you like he didn't fully trust you. He did that with everybody, and he was kind of a quiet guy. But he would talk about stuff. It's just that the stuff he would talk about, it was almost like half of his foot was in reality, and the other half was, like, in outer space somewhere. So he was never, like, perceived, at least by me, to be playing with a full deck. Alright, so there's this jock named Josh, and Josh was a pretty cool guy, because in spite of the fact that he was a big hulking dude that could probably, like, knock a horse down with a single punch, he had piercing blue eyes that reminded me a lot of, like, Frank Sinatra's. And he actually looked like the beefier version of Frank Sinatra, to be honest with you, because, like, his hair was the same color, his facial structure had, like, kind of a baby face going on, but he was a big dude. And, you know, Josh was, like, a pretty cool, down-to-earth type of dude. Like, you could talk to him just about anything. And he wouldn't be, like, ostentatious or, like, arrogant about anything. He'd be pretty down-to-earth and just chill. He also went hunting on the weekends, and, yeah, he was like a good old boy, but with a certain sense of eloquence that you wouldn't expect from that kind of guy. Alright, so, one day, Casey and Eric are no longer staying together. And I was, like, Casey just brought it up and was like, hey, Tujo, did you hear about what happened with Eric? I'm like, no, what happened? And she basically told me this crazy story, and Josh even commented on it later. Eric had made a Facebook account, like, basically pulling Josh's pictures, and he was masquerading as Josh for at least a month. And it took a while for Josh to figure that out, because, you know, you got school, you got practice, like, you know, on the fucking baseball team, football team. I think he was studying football. He was on the football field and, like, you know, studying for, like, tests and stuff. He tried to stay on top of things as much as he could. He doesn't have time to be, like, coasting on Facebook and be like, hey, this guy looks like me. Blah, 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 blah. No, he didn't have fucking time to do that. But he found out about it, and he, like, confronted Eric when he found out that it was Eric that was doing this, and was like, dude, what the fuck? And Eric, this is the creepiest I saw Eric. Eric was just like, you know, saying stuff like, dude, you're such a cool guy. I want to be like you. I want to be you. And I'm just like, whoa. So needless to say, the class didn't really hang out with Eric much after that, you know? I sat with him in a couple other classes, but he kind of faded into irrelevancy after that. I don't know what happened to the guy. He might have transferred to another campus, but yeah, not exactly good. He was pretending to be somebody he wasn't, while that same person was in his classes. Go fucking figure. So, if you're wondering why I'm telling you this story, the circumstances and people are different, but there are similarities between the two. Okay, so Kaiju Costumes. Kaiju Costumes was a fursuit maker, obviously. Kaiju being Japanese for, like, big monsters, kind of like Godzilla and various other things. But there's a particular, like, you know, connotation that comes up with the name Kaiju. You know, you think Godzilla, Mothman. And there's many different incarnations that people like you or me have made, but also those by companies, like Godzilla. Okay, that's pretty cool. So Kaiju Costumes was making various fursuits on demand. Here's the thing. One day, there is a particular account that was an alternative account to Kaiju Costumes called Sheeple And Sheeple or I believe Kevin? Shark. They were supposedly a coyote that wanted to talk about political stuff with their artwork, and they were accepting donations through Ko-fi and Subscribestar. And, you know, it didn't seem overtly problematic until that you realized that the narrative is that they were masquerading as somebody that they weren't. Like, they implied that they were young, gay, and black. And it reminded people a lot about this one Pennsylvanian, like, you know, politician that seemed to have forgotten to switch their account to their alternative account when they were trying to be, like, you know, young and black and gay, and trying to say, Obama didn't do a damn thing for me when he was in office, but Trump sure did, and I feel respected, and then fuck the Democrats. And meanwhile, you see that it's his main account, and he's just, you know, a generic, like, 40-year-old white dude. Didn't exactly do much to endear us to him. However, the one thing that I will say about Kaiju Costumes, here's the thing. I really, genuinely, upon looking at all the material time and time again, I never found the tweet where they overtly claimed, hey, I'm young, male, and black. All I saw was that they were perpetuating artwork that was sort of like an oversimplification of political matters, like, you know, oversimplifying the whole plight of the furry fandom, and how portraying all the furries as social justice warriors. I will tell you, I've hung out with furries that are either, like, very woke, or only kind of woke, or they're mostly apolitical, and they want to not be bothered by the whole thing, you know? It really depends on where you go. And generally speaking, depending on your personal beliefs, either you're, like, deeply devoted to your beliefs, or only kind of devoted to your beliefs, or you are not sure, you're on the fence. That will sort of dictate which circles that you usually, like, associate with. Okay. So Kaiju Costumes, they had a Telegram chat room, in which case they were sort of like, it was called the Kaiju family. And it was usually like where people that were fans of Kaiju Costumes and the fursuits that they were making would hang out and, you know, fraternize. And it wasn't until later that people found out that Kaiju Costumes had the alternative account Sheeple, and that the implication was, the suggestion was that, you know, Sheeple was the assumed identity of Kaiju Costumes, who was trying to pass himself off as a young gay black male that, you know, was basically proposing contrarian ideals to the whole, hey, I'm this and I'm not oppressed. I feel like Kaiju Costumes, though, it was just the artwork, because I'm not seeing a whole lot of tweets or anything like that that really portray them in a negative light. However, I will say this. They are a MAGA supporter. They are a Trump supporter. And it gets a whole of a lot more complicated here, because when people found out about this and were, like, giving him pushback, I would have respected him a lot more if he owned up to it and didn't act like it was no big deal, because, you know, politics in the furry fandom right now is at a fever pitch, okay? Like, perception is everything. And if there's any opportunity or chance for people to, like, take your words out of context or misinterpret your intentions, then they're going to turn on you, alright? And I'm not trying to say that to, like, you know, castigate the rest of the furry fandom, but I'm just saying that cancel culture is alive and well. You see me covering shit like that, you know, every day. The, like, problem here is, like, you know, like, who are these people, number one? Do they deserve it? Number two, what are their bad acts? All I'm seeing from KaijuCostumes is that it was kind of disingenuous that they implied that they were African-American. If it had just been like, hey, I made a character in OC that happens to be, like, you know, African-American and gay, then it's like, if it's, like, fictional, like, only in the realm of fiction, then that'd be okay. Like, I'm sure that nobody would really bat an eye. The problem is they were using that alternative account to perpetuate political ideologies through the use of art. Which is the least bit disingenuous, and I can definitely see why people got upset about that, because it's like, you know, who are you to perpetuate this? Like, who are you? And I'm not denying that he has the right to do so, but the problem is, like, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And, like, they knew what they were doing, it seems like, because if they're going to take the attitude of, like, you know, defending it, like, what they did as completely fine, then I don't know. It's a complicated issue. There's a lot of layers to all this, but I will say that the fandom's reaction was just what you would expect. Furries smell blood in the water. They all went crazy. They lost their collective shit. And they're like, here, I thought you were a cool dude, but really, you're just a racist, transphobic, bigoted asshole that's white and privileged and because, you know, that's a lot of furries right now. I personally don't agree with that because there's, like, definitely a lot of genuine racists out there, but they're not usually running in the same circles that you and I do, you know? And that's probably for the best, you know? Maybe I should just tell, like, people that try to associate with me, like, if they have certain problematic ideologies, hey, we probably shouldn't associate with each other because it probably won't end well for either of us. And if you think that's, like, a dick move, I don't know. Like, I have certain thresholds of, like, what I find problematic. Usually it's a mixture of intention and, like, what they actually believe, cross-referenced. Thankfully, I don't know any Nazis. I know some patriots, I know some liberals, I know some communists, I know some socialists. I know, like, pretty much everybody from across the board. But, like, I kind of draw the line in certain areas, you know? So anyway, to continue, I've sort of been, like, meandering through all this, so let's go ahead and home back to KaijuCostumes. Fact of the matter is, the TLDR, KaijuCostumes got pushback from a lot of people. The word spread far and wide that KaijuCostumes was, you know, running this alternative account that portrayed an African-American gay male. And, like, it all came down to a particular comic. And the comic, if you read it, it just seems like the tired old argument that a lot of, like, you know, furries that are politically inclined that don't go with the whole woke SJW narrative. It's basically just saying, like, portraying a lot of furries as people that get angry about, like, relatively minor things and are just ranting and raving about, I don't know, like, all cops are bastards, Black Lives Matter, like, the gay agenda, I don't know. I'll show you the comic in a few minutes here. But yeah, they got railroaded. I can't really feel bad for them. I do think that it was unfair, like, the reaction they got. I don't think it should have gotten to that high of, like, a fever pitch. But I will say that, like, to not do, like, some sort of a clarification or acknowledgement is the least bit, like, disingenuous and dishonest, alright? That is the one thing I will say. And, like, their reaction. It gets a hell of a lot better, though. Because not only do they get pushback from the fandom, it gets to such a fever pitch that their mother gets involved. And I have to tell you that if, like, my mother got involved with my online activities and, like, conversations with people, I'd be fucking mortified. Especially if I was, like, dealing with trolls. Like, I don't know. I don't know if he ran to his mother, or if, like, his mother just came to his aid because they happened to know, like, his Twitter account and just, like, you know, recognizing that all this shit was happening. But goddamn, like, I don't know, like, you know, that was, like, it went from sad to pathetic, alright? Like, really fast. Anyway, KaijuCostumes, like, if you look at their Twitter these days, it says closed indefinitely, and a lot of people are just kind of like, gee, I wonder why. It's clear that KaijuCostumes, they definitely had a, like, you know, political belief that drifted towards the right. And they probably could have, like, done a lot better for themselves if they hadn't made that comic, if they hadn't, like, delved and used that alternative account as, you know, like a political platform. And, like, the fact of the matter is, the implication here, it wasn't so much about what they said specifically, at least before they were confronted, I mean. We're going to go ahead and look at all the communications here soon. But, like, it's more the fact that, like, his tone-deaf response and just not really seeing the big deal here, how something can be taken out of context, you know, twisted every which way to Sunday, and, like, that they're basically playing with fire, alright? Like, certain, like, political ideals and ideologies, maybe, you know, that's not exactly the best basis of conversation topic. Granted, I don't see too many people that are intellectually honest anymore. Like, as far as, like, having a mano-a-mano conversation about something that's, you know, fairly serious. And it's like, why the fuck are furries talking about politics anyway? I understand that these are matters that are potentially life or death for you, but at the same time, your ability to change them is fairly minuscule. And I guess, like, the best thing that you can do is vote for your local politicians. Vote locally. Like, you know, eventually it will make a difference at the very end, but you have to start local and work your way up. You can't just be like, I'm going to vote in the general election and expect to see my desired candidate win. And then they don't win. And then you're just like, all is lost. We're doomed. Alright, well, I've sort of taken enough twists and turns here. Let's go ahead and get in the meat potatoes of the subject, shall we? Well, alright, we're back. So as you can see here, these are basically a bunch of screen caps that I pulled from Twitter, but also some of the attachments that people were so gracious enough to attach to some of these tweets. I took the liberty of basically trying a modicum of censorship as far as KaijuCostumes' picture. I'm not sure why, but a recurrent theme is that people, if they know what you look like in real life, they're going to broadcast whatever pictures, materials, and anything that they have, you know, at their disposal. You know, like if you were found out to be the least bit racist, transphobic, bigoted, like anything that could possibly be connotated to be held against you, they're going to release that shit. I mean, in this case, I guess it's kind of understandable because it's really to hone home the fact that KaijuCostumes, in spite of their portrayal of their alt-sona or whatever, you know, that sort of representation was supposed to be, that they are in fact, you know, white, although they say they're mixed race, and, you know, they're a MAGA supporter. We'll be seeing some of that. I didn't take any personal pictures myself. Well, actually, whatever was part of, like, you know, all this. But let's go ahead and see the offending comic here. So I'm going to go ahead and, like, you know, start to finish. I'll add commentary later, but I'm just going to try to get through this comic before I say anything. Okay? So, welcome! All cops are bastards. Black Lives Matter. Show me your Vax card. That needs to be a remix. Show me your Vax card. Show me your Vax. Can we not talk about politics or what vaccines I've received? I like to hang out with my friends and just enjoy the fandom, you know? Just enjoy the fandom. Enjoy the fandom! And it's like loading here. The fandom is a form of escapism. We are all oppressed! I've never been oppressed. But you suffer the most! Gay! Black! I do not focus on that because it is unimportant, and no one cares. Those traits make you who you are! They literally don't. So you're a fascist! All right! Proud Boy! Also, spelling, you know, I'm a little bit of a grammar Nazi myself, and it should be your as an apostrophe here and R-E at the end, not your. So you're a fascist. You're a fascist. Okay, anyway. So, as you can see, this comic isn't overtly problematic, but the implication here is the thing that everybody is focusing on is that lion right there. That is what KaijuCostumes was using as sort of like an alternative account. At least it was, you know, emblazoned in the avatar picture. And people made the connotation that they were basically masquerading as a gay black man and saying, I'm not oppressed, all this is fine. And, you know, there's going to be plenty of, like, black, you know, people out there that will say they're not oppressed because, well, they're really going to say that they're not impressed, but they're going to say that they're not oppressed, but there's plenty of other people that are definitely being failed by the system. But anyway, that's really none of my business at this moment in time. We're just going to focus on this. Yeah, I don't know. Like, see, here's the problem. KaijuCostumes' strongest defense is that he didn't overtly specify that he was, you know, black and gay. but the implication, it's implied based on his presentation. That's where I can personally find it to be, a bit disingenuous, maybe false advertising, blatantly lying about pretending to be that you're something that you're not, but, never, explicitly stating that. Just letting people think it, and not correcting them if they, assume it, That's where the sort of disingenuous nature comes from. Some people have gone so far as to say digital blackface, but at the same time, I don't think it's that bad, but it's still, pretty dishonest. Anyway, this straw man argument thing, this is an oversimplification about what's going on now. People have been saying this for years. Let's go ahead and start at the very beginning, how I sort of learned of this whole thing. So we got somebody named Bitters here, and I'm just going to read it all, and, we're going to go through it together. I'm going to hold your hand through this entire experience. LMAO, nah, I'm actually being fucking nice right now, man. Just telling the other suitors in the group what you've done, really. Aha. So this would be the implication that they were part of a Telegram chat room. The Kaiju family that I was telling you about, the Kaiju costume family. And you can see 2 screen caps right here. Yes, I did download these, and we'll look at it in a minute, but... Woke up to news my fursuiter maker, checks notes, pretended to be black for alt-right clout points. Maybe, maybe not. But, well, I'm just going to go ahead and show you the material here. Let's go ahead and go over here. Okay, Kaiju family. Seems pretty innocuous. Hey, mystery solved. That furry comic artist Sheeple is the alt of Kaiju costumes. Hey, that's what I said. Really, it was not hard to deduce given the fact that the first account they followed was their partner and their art style is identical. Well, this is shitty. I've had this suit for years. This is the most unsettling shit I've ever seen. My husband is black, and you don't get to speak for him like that. Huge middle finger. I've repped your business for fucking years. Not anymore. You can go to that Raider furry NaziCon all you want, pal. LMAO. Lost a customer and a fan. Putting slave in your @ and your main character to your comic persona, I don't know, and presenting them as black is fucking god-awful. Seriously, fuck. I would just like to say, in all fairness, if it was just a fictional character that happened to be black, I think it would have been fine. You would have still gotten some of the hateocracy, but I don't think it would have, gotten to this fever pitch. However, the whole sheeple slave thing, okay, whatever, sheeple slave. You can put, there have been white, black, and, various other races have been enslaved by other civilizations. Like the Romans, they didn't give a shit if you were black or white. They wanted slaves, man. And they were gonna get fucking slaves. But anyway, obviously in America, the connotation very quickly goes to the dark past and practices of slavery. But yeah, sheeple slave, I guess that should be indicative of how they perceive their services to the furry fandom. That they are a slave of the sheeple, that they are obligated, financially, to cater to and serve. That's fine. I'm sorry we can't have our own opinions and still be civil with one another. This is a nice start. Nah, this isn't a fucking opinion. It's racist. It's trash. I'm not sure if this is Bitters. I'm going to assume because they have access to the actual, screen cap, but it is kind of, really pushing that envelope hard. I would say a vast overreaction, but whatever. It's what they were feeling at the time. Jesus, you're reaching amazing. I've been out here for years. Years! Yeah, they've been fighting in the trenches this whole damn time. They've been a cyber warrior, the keyboard warrior, dedicated in the trenches, suffering and protecting the sanctity of the furry fandom and schlebs like you. Preventing furry raiders from destroying shit. Well, if the furry raiders ever destroyed anything, it would be the image of the furry fandom at large, but that's largely because they're a bunch of 4chaners and memesters. Blocking Foxler from destroying Denver. I'm not sure that Foxler really has much of an opportunity to destroy anything these days. Based on what I know, but knowing what he's done, and you are out here doing this, extremely disappointed in this. See, I've been subjected to, behavior like this, where they just carry on and on and on, acting like they are, attacking somebody. Okay, what, Shark Boy over here did was shitty, but, at the same time, Shark Boy is not, a Nazi himself. Definitely part of the MAGA movement, at least if material that I have access to is indicative of anything. But, you act like you're condemning somebody that committed a cardinal sin. I mean, Christ, not even Christian got this much condemnation. Let's see. The comic is unnecessarily provocative and misleading. If it was published with good intentions, then it was a misguided decision. It was not. They touted the character as them and pretended to be black. I've met them in person. They are not black. To preface it, it was I'm black and gay and perfectly okay with X questionable action. Anything you type isn't going to change the context. The comic is already published. I see you going LMAO. You even have that specific character as your avatar for that account. Yeah, he does. And the only place that he fucked up is basically not correcting people if they assumed that they were, you know, gay and black. At the same time, like, they didn't ever explicitly advertise that they were, to my knowledge. However, we'll see some material that may shape your opinion. What's blowing my mind is the vast amount of accusations being made about me based on the comic. Not once did I ever claim to be black and gay. To my knowledge, true. The character in the comic? Yeah, he's black and gay. Me? Nah, I'm mixed race. Apparently, I'm not allowed to be a voice for my silent friends who are afraid of the same reaction I got for speaking the truth. This whole situation shines a light on how quickly lies and rumors can spread amongst a fandom. Please show me the receipts of all these accusations. That's all I have to say about the topic. Alright, so if they were a little bit more willing to accommodate the people in their own Telegram chat room, I'm pretty sure they might have been able to de-escalate the situation. This person, I have no idea what their personality is like, what their mindset was when they started this conversation or anything like that, so either they would have heard the guy out or they would have kept up on their diatribe. But, you know, like, just basically shrugging their shoulders and just being like, whatever. I don't know, like, there's different ways you can react to diffuse a situation. At the very least, convey to people that you actually give a shit about what they're talking about, but, you know. The comic was fairly innocuous to me, but maybe, you know, you all might disagree. It's literally on the comic. It's all right there. You wrote it. You made an account for it. We can all literally read it. Woo-woo, no politics is a political stance in itself, and it's obvious where that side lies. I've been in this game far too long for that bullshit excuse to work. You showed your ass, now it's dealing with the fallout. So here's the fallout. If anyone who has a suit from them but doesn't want to vibe with them or support this bullshit wants to message me, feel free. We can deal with our anger elsewhere, where it doesn't boost your ego. I'm not answering anything else from this person. Completely and absolutely fucking done with you. Wow, what a send-off. This dude is of Make Furries Great Again to groups on Telegram. Uh-oh. Now we're getting the spicy stuff. Like legit, base red-pilled furries. So heads up, everyone in this chat. Any and all information you posted here could very well be used and posted in Nazi fur chat rooms. So delete what you can if you posted anything relevant. My advice is to delete any chat information you share with them. Nobody needs to worry about their personal information being leaked. That's childish and petty. This is a business and will be run as such. I will be deleting this chat room by the end of the day and reaching out to the last couple of customers. If this was run as a business, you wouldn't have done what you did. I run one too. I don't trust you, not even a bit. I know what circles you run in. I can only hope you'll keep your word to people you owe work or refunds to. There's a lot of eyes on you right now that you publish that comic. Literally everything you do will be scrutinized, from loose seams to missed deadlines. Even putting my personal anger aside, I'd advise getting work to people, like, quickly and quietly. Your customers deserve that much, because now we have to live with the fact that our maker pulled some bullshit, and that's all it's gonna be when people see when we fursuit. We spent a lot of money for our suits, a lot of joy, and now we gotta deal with people thinking we agree with you because of it. That's a big disappointment. That will be an issue every time we put them on. A lot of us are planning style refurbs or completely wiping our characters because of it. So now, you've indirectly cost people money too. Good luck, everyone, except Reef. And here's a big fat middle finger for you. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they went above and beyond what would have been meritable, but at the same time, I don't know, like, alright, so this is what got them implicated in the first place. Sheeple Slave, Shark, hey y'all. The name's Shark. I'm a coyote who brings cultural and political issues to the forefront with art. I can't believe the amount of support I've gotten. So many have reached out asking to donate, so I've set these up. Subscribestar.com, Sheeple Slave, and Coffee.com, Sheeple Slave. Don't let them censor your thoughts. Don't let them make you regret that you talked. Well, bold words for somebody that had not only been attacked from all sides, including Diotas Devil and Boozy Badger, but also had to get their mom involved to tell the people, hey, he's had enough. You guys go away. That's embarrassing. Anyway. Alright. Oh, well, we skipped ahead a little bit. Okay. So, we already heard from Bitters over here, which I'm just going to say right now, if my tone of voice in that whole thing, as I was reading that was just the emotion I extrapolated from all that. Bitters certainly acted bitter, but granted, this should be a reminder to fursuit makers that you need to keep your reputation and image squeaky clean if you expect to make it in this furry fandom. And, you know, just if you don't necessarily believe or agree with the ideologies that your customers are espousing, at the very least, like, do the whole agree to disagree, or, you know, understand where they're coming from. Because people, like, at the end of the day, they just want to be heard and acknowledged, and that you at least know where they're coming from. And, like, more of them have a legitimate argument about, like, certain things that are wrong with society than you'd expect offhand. Others are doing it for clout. So it's up to you to decide which one's being authentic and which one's just doing it to put on a show. Woke up to news by Fursuit maker. Yeah, we already read that. So that's a fun unfollow. At first, when I saw the art, I thought they had been tracing their fursuits in the style transfer, but nope. For clarification, and it was Archangel. I want to call them Archangel at first, but I know that's not right. That furry comic artist Sheeple Slave is the alt of KaijuCostumes. Really was not hard to deduce, given... Yeah, we already read that. Alright. So, does that look like a young black gay male? Pretty self-explanatory. Obviously I put a little line over their eyes, because, like, otherwise, you know, I think that's the least bit, you know, insensitive. Like, I'm not as, like, so much of a dickhead. I'm just going to let material like that slide, but I just do not have the time to, like, censor every goddamn thing. I gotta probably put a filter over this, but I don't know. Sharing this proof before he deletes it, because, you know, that's always a good thing to do, right? Doxing people and showing personal imagery of them. Granted, if it's in a public space like Twitter, everybody can see that, and assume that whatever material you share up there, it's going to be out there. So, you know, you got things like the Wayback Machine and, like, the archive service, like, server system. Yep, I've actually met this person in MFF. He was claiming he was black, then backtracked to mixed, not mixed either. His own family showed up to prove that. Was the most unique part of this experience, LOL. I confronted him on it later down in the thread. I'm polyamorous, so I could date creatives who aren't shitty people, and I can have everything made in-house. I still pay my makers, but now they're deeply vetted. Deeply. To be fair myself, I bought this suit in, like, 2015 to 2016, and they had no signs of being fascist or racist till now. I think that was, like, kind of insensitive, but I wouldn't say it was, like, overtly racist, except for the fact that they were disingenuously implying that they were, you know, a different race, but... separation of the character, the only, like, way that they fucked up is that they adopted it as, like, part of their, like, this profile right here, you know? Like, the fact that they had it as an avatar. That's the only major, like, you know, tying thing. That and the comic, which pissed off a good many people. Because you're posting this in an environment where people don't want to hear this kind of thing. And whether or not you have the right to say it, well, you had the right to say it, you said it, and you piss some people off along the way. You know, that's kind of like, you know, smacking the beehive and then, like, writing to me when you got some, like, you got stung, like, 50 times and saying, oh, why did you get stung? And it's like, well, look at what you said. Look at the people that you said it to, you know? Anyway, where we leave off. Oh, yep, there we go. And they caught the joke late. A lot of this material I can play as a montage. I'm probably going to do that. I want to skip ahead a little bit because a lot of this is largely the same thing over and over again. People expressing their concern, their, like, dismay, their disgust, their condemnation. You know, and... oh no. I remember this guy. You know, the first time I saw this fursuit was at Anthrocon years ago, and somebody caught me on the sly. I just burst out laughing when I first saw this dude. I'm just like, we got this angry bastard just stomping up the way and just like, you know, hefting that Trump sign. And the worst thing about it is, if they had paid for registration at Anthrocon, I wouldn't have had such a problem with it. But the problem is, they didn't pay for their stay at Anthrocon. They just kind of walked around the premises and waved this sign. Didn't work out for them at MFF, though. Let's see. I'm gonna get so much fucking mileage out of this one, though. Show me your Vax card. Show me your Vax card. Unironically, the best way to ask for a card. Anyone worth their salt will be happy to see those teeth. I see it as unnecessary, but okay. Granted, America, like, has been kind of ravaged by the COVID-19 for the last year, so... the best shots are Moderna. Okay, Moderna. Alright, well... Anyway, let's go ahead and skip ahead. So I think we read most of that. We read all of these messages and stuff like that. You know? Let me see if there's anything else. Somebody posted that. Obviously, they got their Make America Great Again hat. And a Trump hat-like shirt. And yeah. So at the TLDR of all this, somebody was nice enough to make a synopsis meme. It's like, are you winning, Kaiju Costumes? Help me, mother. They are making fun of me on Twitter. And that was the end of Kaiju Costumes, because if you see him again, like, it basically says, closed indefinitely. The comparison has been drawn with this Dean Browning dude from PA. It's like, I'm a black gay guy, and I can personally say that Obama did nothing for me. My life only changed a little bit, and it was for the worse. Everything is so much better under Trump, though. I feel respected, which I never do when Democrats are involved. So this would imply that they have an alternative account that happens to be trying to pass themselves off as like a black dude, black gay guy. All right. And I don't need to tell you, I don't even need to like zoom in on that, but that does not look like a young gay black dude. All right. So this was the comparison. This was back in 2020, you know, November. So yeah, I'm sure he had egg on his face for a long damn time, if not his constituency. So yeah, let's go ahead. I'm just going to scroll through this real quick because it starts to get a little samey after a while. But I don't think I got anything from Taz Devil. I did see a lot of her tweets, but, you know, I didn't see it as necessary. Wait. Oh god, it's kind of like the annoying sissy I was trying to mess with earlier. They pulled that transracial crap in the other replies I saw of theirs. Okay, let's take a look at that. If you can respect my gender pronouns of they, them, you should have no trouble respecting other people's pronouns. I draw the line at Chris Chan, and I am fucking gonna die on that hill. Also, please don't call me man or bro or whatever. You can use pal and buddy, which are gender-neutral ways of referring to someone, and I actually love them. You should not dictate what other people say or do. Have you ever seen a bee dance? Let me see you dance like a bee. I've never seen a bee dance. I've seen a bee wait for a cigarette. The trans movement isn't looking so good. La 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 la, space dreaming your lack of tolerance if trans people is so foolish that someone is now Elmo. I think that's all he wrote. She wrote. Anyway. So, people had, like, their own 2 cents to say on the matter, but we've spent quite a bit of time here. It's really coming down to your decision here. Is this comic so innocuous that you can sort of, like, give this guy a free pass that this is indeed a fictionalized character? Or was the implication that, you know, based on the fact that this is quite clearly a lion with dreadlocks, where do lions come from? Africa. What are dreadlocks usually connotated with? I've seen white people adopt the dreadlock look before, but at the same time, here we go, like, usually, I just think of people from Jamaica, to be honest with you, but, yeah. I'm not entirely sure what this loading screen right here is. Is this, like, loading communism? I also don't even know what gender, like, this thing is. Is this male or female? Are they supposed to be gender neutral? I don't know. Like, it could go either way. Like, they're clearly male, but this thing, I don't know. They got like a candy cotton floof for like a hair, and they went from like seriously, nobody would do that, by the way. Like, I'm just gonna point out, like, basically, if you meet somebody for the first time and that's their first reaction, I'd be walking the fuck away ASAP, okay? That doesn't usually happen unless they're at like some sort of political rally right now that's like based on a protest on these like, you know, sort of movements here. That usually doesn't happen. This one, arguably, maybe if you're going to a furry convention and they're like, show me your Vax card, please. But they wouldn't do it angrily, usually, or like that malicious, like, grin. That almost looks like a gleeful grin. It's like, I know you don't have one, so you need to die. Anyway, like, I don't know, this comic more makes me laugh for different reasons than the message it's trying to convey. Oh, well. Anyway, also, like, poor spelling in some areas. Oh, well, okay. Like, I need to stop focusing on that. So Kaiju costumes, like, not overtly problematic, but still, like, disingenuously dishonest in, like, the portrayal. Like, you know, supposedly trying to pass themselves off for something that they're not. It's like, why do you need an alternative account if you're going to be doing stuff like this, alright? If you're going to make an alternative account, you must have known that there was some reasonable level of, like, you know, that you were going to engage in behavior that if it went the wrong way, it was going to be tied back to you in some meaningful way. So you made an alt account, you know? Like, typically speaking, you don't do that unless it's for entertainment purposes, you're trying to surprise somebody, or you're doing something pretty nefarious, okay? So I think we can all sort of agree on that, right? Oh, well, it's, I guess we can just move on, shall we? Closing thoughts and conclusion. And we're back. So, yeah, we took a look at some material there, and it got a little samey later. Obviously, you know, your interpretation of all this could be just another mindless bout of furry drama, but you gotta understand, at the end of the day, this was, you know, like a moderately successful, you know, fursuit maker that was basically cast out of the furry fandom, basically chased out. And, you know, like, I would have respected KaijuCostumes a whole lot more if they took it with a dignified response, that they were down-to-earth, direct, and wholesome in, like, their response, but to get their mother involved, whether or not, like, he actually ran to her and complained about it, or if she just got involved of her own accord, it still doesn't look good, you know what I mean? Like, that's embarrassing, okay? And just the whole thing is just kind of like showcasing the Twitter hate mob, but at the same time, this should drive home the importance that if you're a fursuit maker or you're an artist that operates here in the furry fandom, you need to keep your image, the perception of you in like the furry circles that you associate with, fairly clean, alright? That means like avoiding any controversies that are unnecessary. And this is sort of inviting, like, controversial, like, you know, responses to you. What would have been more honest is if KaijuCostumes had made an alternative account that was saying, hey, this is my ranting, like, alternative account for this person, so, you know. That would have been more, like, acceptable. Granted, it probably would have earned them just as much backlash, but at the same time, at least there wouldn't be the accusations that they were basically engaging in digital blackface. I don't personally think that that was what they were going for, but they were definitely, you know, leaving it, like, potentially leaving it as, like, implied that they were gay and black to, quote-unquote, pretend that they were, like, let people think that they were gay and black, and, like, using that as a political platform. I don't think anybody should be castigated for expressing their personal beliefs and opinions, but obviously in today's, like, very hyperbolic and sensitive, like, fandom, it's important that, you know, like, you are honest and forthcoming in what you believe if you happen to be questioned by other people. And be prepared that not everyone's going to agree with you, and some people are going to react and respond in different ways to different extremes. Obviously, you got people that are on the far left or the far right that are going to respond less favorably to other people that have differences of opinions to them. And I still subscribe to sort of like the horseshoe theory that I've seen shitty people on both sides of the equation. It didn't matter that their politics happened to swing left or right. The fact of the matter is that their behavior, like, has sort of not been good. And I have my own personal, like, you know, I have my own perceived, like, stereotypes of either side of the groups and, like, what I see, like, every day. But at the end of the day, they're all stereotypes. Did Kaiju Costumes deserve this much of a backlash? I don't think so, but at the same time, while it's happening, the responses could have been a little bit more dignified and, you know, not involve their mom. That probably would have been, like, a better option for them than running the mommy. I don't think they did run the mommy. Maybe they did, but, like, it's entirely possible that their mom was aware of them on YouTube and just decided, like, to get involved and just be like, hey, he's had enough, back off. She's supposedly as much of a Trump supporter as he is. So, you know, people were very quick to say, oh, I see where he gets that from then. But yeah, all in all, it just reminds me that it's very important to keep your image clean. And if you're going to share your intimate, like, personal beliefs with other people, know who you're talking to. Don't say things that are, like, inflammatory, that is going to get people pissed off. And it's probably going to end out better for you. Granted, be prepared that, like, if you, for instance, are a lefty fur and you're revealing it to your conservative furry friends that, hey, I'm a liberal and I actually subscribe to a lot of these ideals, then be prepared for a little bit of a unpleasant conversation. Same thing for somebody being a conservative furry that hangs out with a bunch of lefty furs. It's just the fact of the matter of, like, today in the furry fandom. Or you can be like me and, like, be a centrist and have everybody sort of look at you and just be like, yo, why the fuck are you in the center? Pick a side and stick to it. The reason I say that is that, like, me personally, I see a lot of matters that I either sympathize with or fully support on the left. And on the right, believe it or not. But on the right-hand side, it's more like things like gun rights. Like, I'm an ardent, like, gun owner. So, like, you know, just for an example. So it really depends on the topic. I don't think that's really the defined, like, definition for a centrist, but I looked at both the parties. I think the Republicans suck. I think the fucking Democrats suck. I think the Green Party sucks. And the Libertarians were an embarrassment. Like, you know. But anyway, whatever. All the parties here in the United States suck. So I don't know why we have to have this bipartisan system of, like, you know, Democrats and Republicans when other countries like in Germany have, like, hundreds of political parties are all vying for control. So it's really difficult to find that one party that really vibes well with you and has more representation for what you think is important. Anyway, that's just me. Whatever. Let's go ahead and just say that Kaiju Costumes is a dishonored, like, former fursuit maker. It's unfortunate that another fursuit maker has to go the way of the dinosaur and be cast out of the furry fandom, but at the same time, it's hard for me to really feel, like, terribly bad for them. I sympathize with them insofar as I don't think they should have gotten that much castigation from the community. But at the same time, they should have known what they were doing, and they seem to have awareness of what they were doing was kind of questionable if they're going to make an alternative account and deny it until somebody made the connection. Also, this is just as an aside, like, there are plenty of artists out there that are wonderful artists. They're great fursuit makers. They can do great things with the chosen craft that they have. But at the end of the day, they're also terrible, shitty people. You know, like John Lennon's a good example that comes to mind. Like, great musician, great Beatle, but like a horrible individual if you actually look at their life. Karl Marx, his political ideologies and writings have been an inspiration to a good many people out there. But at the same time, if you study his home life, he was an absolutely abhorrent individual. Terrible husband, terrible father, and terrible friend to some lesser degree. So, a separation of the artist from, like, you know, the artist's craft to their actual personality is in order here. But I can understand why, like, there was such a castigation against Kaiju Costumes. You had people that thought that, you know, they had a misunderstanding about them. That they assumed that they were one of them, you know? And to find something years down the road that, you know, goes against their image, their perception of them, is kind of a shock for some people. I can understand why bitters went on their diatribe now, but at the same time, I think that there should have been a moment where take a deep breath, have a civil conversation about it, but, you know, they said their 2 cents. I can respect that. So yeah, cancel culture is still alive and well on Twitter. That Kaiju Costumes had engaged in questionable behavior and was the least bit disingenuous and dishonest, allowing people to think that they were a gay black furry when they were really white and a MAGA supporter. And, yeah, same shit, different day, really. Like, a lot of people think that Twitter is an absolute shitstorm of a platform, that a lot of people that hang out there, it's a sewer. But maybe that's a little bit of an extreme. Me personally, I like the idea of Twitter, but it's definitely, the milk's gone a little sour. And some might say that it's gotten full bad. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Till next time, guys, take care and peace. I hope you all have a better one. Are you winning, son? Help me, Mother. They are making fun of me on Twitter.
How embarrassing!
Okay. Let's go have some fun.
Hey fellas, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Would you care to hit that like button and subscribe for more? I'd really appreciate that.